some noise for Silver Shining Tiny Shorts. Fabulous. That's right. We have one more storyteller, and I want to get right to it, y'all. Our last performer this evening is an amateur Dolly Parton historian. Yes, and the only best-selling author to fail creative writing at Austin Community College. Please welcome to the stage, Lauren Hough.
Y'all want me to fucking follow that? Dude, fuck. Alright. I forgot my fucking drink. I apologize in advance. I get really intense stage fright. Fortunately, you don't have to see the throwing up part. You might see the flop sweat and the shaking and the can't fucking function part. Don't fucking film this, Craig. Fuck, man. I also realized before we're gonna set that down. We also realized after I printed this that like it needs a little bit of preface. I was 23 when is it okay to preface a tiny bit? Okay, cool. I'm fucking American. I barely speak this. When I was 23, I moved to DC after I got kicked out of the Air Force. And like my first job, I'd been living in my fucking car. And my first job was at a gay bar or a gay club in DC. And when I was doing the interview, my boss did that whole speech of like, we're like a family here, which is a huge red flag, and you're supposed to leave. Because it means you're not going to get paid what you're worth at all. It means you're going to get asked to come in on weekends and holidays, and I mean, at a gay bar, that's kind of part of the gig, because, you know, some people don't have a home to go to for Christmas, so you're working there. But, yeah, I should have run, but like I said, I was living in my car. I'd found, like, a room the night before, and, yeah. Also, my roommate got the job, too, but he got fucking shit canned the first week, so, like, it was up to me to make rent. So, yeah, this is a story about that place. Oh, shit, the other preface. I'm so sorry that I'm me right now. I wanted to be a writer, which is like a cool thing where you get to sit at a computer and nobody fucking talks to you. And it turns out there's so much talking. There are so many events where you can't like see people, and so you can't even find like a friendly person to focus on because you don't see their eyes. Anyway, oh yeah, the other preface. I'm not even stoned. It might help, but I'm not. What was I going to say? Oh yeah, so the other thing, we're going to stop apologizing. My therapist is really working on that. You're not here, are you? Yeah, I grew up in a cult called The Family, because, you know, why not ruin that for you? So, yeah, anytime I heard if you live in the South, especially in the 90s, and especially in the Air Force, like, the code word, which is fucking gay, was, see what I did there? Was, are you family? And I would just go, no. I probably would have gotten laid more if that weren't my reaction. So yeah, it's just talking about this bar, because it was, we're just gonna fucking start reading. Y'all are the fucking best. Our head bartender, if not by title, then by age, was a woman named Anita. And God help me, she was probably 35. But it seemed old to me then. She wore a black vest, sans shirt, and black eyeliner, and she kept her boyfriend who worked the light show, a casual footnote to those who didn't need to know she was straight. Sort of straight anyway. Anita was living, breathing proof of something I'd known since I was a kid, begging for change on the street. That the only people who will ever help someone and expect nothing are those who've been poor. Anita was the one who'd make you hot tea if you were working sick, and we were always working sick. She always had a tampon and ibuprofen stashed under her bar. She's the one who'd listen to my girlfriend drama and usually managed to not tell me, Jesus fucking Christ, just break up with her already, Ron. Anytime I was ready to lose my shit, Anita would happily sneak me a shot. Without realizing or putting a word to it, I started relating to her like she was a big sister. She was someone I could tell my problems to, someone to call me on my shit, someone who looked out for me. Every so often, Anita would stuff the trunk of her piece of shit Toyota with day-old bread from the bakery near her apartment to pass out to the hungry, broke bouncers who were paid like family. Which is next to nothing. I swear to Christ, I got like $7 an hour at that fucking job. We always left as a group, bar staff being prime targets for mugging, and she told everyone to meet out by her car, and so I did, because I did what Anita told me to do. It's a good policy if you work for Anita. The other bouncers were happily grabbing bags of bread and stuffing them into their backpacks, and I just stood there with my hands in my pockets. The way people look at you when you're poor, the shame they need you to feel, it changes you. It makes it hard to accept anything that feels like a handout. We'll fetishize poverty as though it makes you a better person, but all it does is make you mean. You're not jealous of those who have more, you're just exhausted by the fucking humiliation they will not hesitate to throw at you. People say broke when they have to tap a savings account, run up a credit card. There's an entire society of people who don't have checking accounts. I cash my check at the bar with Anita. The shame of it means the only people you can risk empathizing with are those who've been there, who won't fucking humiliate you. Once you've been hungry, the sort of hungry that feels like your body devouring itself as you try to fall asleep, you'll never really comfortable around people who haven't felt the same gnawing under their rib cage. There's always someone who will say, I don't eat leftovers, I'm not poor. So my first instinct on seeing a trunk full of expired bread was to shrug and look away or risk the humiliation of looking hungry. The other bouncers of the club had no such problem. They weren't what you pictured when you heard the word bouncer anyway. They were the twinks, gutter punks, vogue queens, and tweakers. They were tattooed and pierced and wore jeans the size of hoop skirts and skater shoes with the brand emblems worn off. They came from shitty small towns. The town's country singers don't bother writing shitty songs bragging about. Towns where growing up, queer kids live the stories they won't tell their friends, even in the dark. Even on the drugs they use to feel something that doesn't fucking hurt. You can pretend to be concerned about casual drug use, and I'll tell you you're the reason we casually use drugs. They drop a headline about their past here or there, the sort of hints that would make anyone want to know the story. But ask a follow-up question, all they say was, shows, honey, just shows. What was left was tragedy by buckshot. Girl, I lost my virginity to the counselor at camp. They sent me to pray the gay out. I fucked a Republican once. I was 14, though. Bitch, my daddy's the only one who gets to call me a faggot. The first time I hesitated in front of Anita's truck, one of those bouncers said, wait, did you get any? And I said, no, it's okay, because I'm a fucking idiot. He said it's still good, like he was warming up to explain expiration dates to the dipshit rich kid. I wanted to tell him, oh, honey, I know all about expiration dates. Instead, I took the sack of bagels he held out, and I nearly fucking cried. The only people we did judge were the customers. Them. Helped that I already wasn't a big fan of them. Them being the most affluent gay white men in the DC area. It helped if you were wearing the right clothes, but not too much. Gladys, the old drag queen who ran the coat check as some sort of drag queen retirement plan, was my unofficial stylist. She looked like a Baptist preacher's wife, and I liked her immediately. She punctuates stories the same way my grandma used to tell us about her neighborhood. Well, that was when Miss Ambrosia, she's dead now. And she was living over at that video store on 17th with Aaron. He passed about a year or so later. There was a boy named Felix. Girl, he was the statue of David come to life. Lovely boy. Passed in 89, I think. She'd let us raid the coat check for left behind clothes. I mean, we would have done it anyway. We'd have pilfered what we needed, but it helped that she often examined my selections and said, honey, no. Badlands was where I felt safe, where I felt at home, where I could hide, where the music and the lights and the drugs made the world outside and all the pain that came with it disappear. I could stand behind the bar and pour drinks and the world came to me, but never too close. I didn't need to fit in. Didn't have to worry about saying the right thing. Didn't have to be accepted by anyone outside the club. It didn't matter that I couldn't go home for Thanksgiving. Someone at the club would always take in the strays, and we had to work anyway. I didn't need a social life. I had a job at the club. Hours don't really allow for a social life anyway. I needed to put saliva in my mouth in the form of whiskey. Cheers. I found this out about me doing a TED Talk, and I will never watch it. It's a miracle of fucking editing, but like, couldn't they make you memorize that shit? I was supposed to memorize this. I did, but it's fucking gone. That time I couldn't fucking read, which was helpful.
Doing great.
Thanks. You ever had a panic attack in front of a crowd? It's fun. It doesn't take long working bar shifts before you become entirely nocturnal. My only friends were similarly sleep-deprived: bartenders, bouncers, sex workers, servers, cooks from restaurants around the neighborhood who hadn't seen the fucking sun in a week either. When I was a kid growing up, I used to keep this old radio stashed in a hole I'd carved into my foam mattress. It was up on the top bunk of these 3-decker bunk beds they always built to shelve us. This was back in Switzerland. And I could pick up Armed Forces radio at night coming in from Germany. And at night I'd lie up on my shelf and I'd listen to Systemite music. That's y'all. Circa 1990 though, so it was heavy on Madonna, Sinead O'Connor.
Yes!
God, I love that woman. Roxette and The Cure. Everything I needed for my angsty preteen heart. I didn't understand a word of it, but I'd listen to that shit and I'd picture my life as an adult. I'd imagine I wasn't in the family. Antichrist hadn't come. End of the world hadn't happened. I'd gotten out somehow. I'd gone to college, I had a career. I was always a little fuzzy on the details. What was perfectly clear is I'd live in a city where I'd have friends like I'd seen in movies. We'd sit outside on restaurant patios, on the stoops of our funky apartments, in tiny backyards of brownstone townhouses, on the beach in the winter. We'd road trip. I liked mixing up the locations. We'd sip wine and beer and fancy cocktails or brown liquor in clear glasses. And we'd talk. We'd talk about everything, our relationships, our dogs. I would have dogs. Our jobs. We'd debate religion and politics. Someone would bring up something they'd read and say, The New Yorker. The New Yorker was the only publication I could name. My grandmother was a hoarder, so it was either Nat Geo or The New Yorker. National Geographic is what causes hoarding, because they stack really fucking well. And like, once you've built up a good stack of those, then you're a hoarder. It's helpful if, your preteen granddaughter moves in and needs something to read, though. But that was it. I still haven't gotten a story in the New Yorker, though. Fuckers. You should probably write a story about that. They might print that. But yeah, these friends of mine, the imaginary friends, we talk about books and we talk about music. We'd know the band's name. We'd know the lyrics. We'd be witty. We would tease and flirt and joke. We'd have inside jokes. We'd smoke cigarettes. We might experiment with drugs. We'd be fun. We'd be interesting. And we would talk. So 13 some odd years later, still didn't have a college degree. Still don't. Still don't have a career or vacations. But sometimes Joey would make us dinner. Joey was the boss of the club who, really thought we were a family, but it turned out it meant something different to him. And we'd head over to Anita's to play with her ferrets and drink and talk about books. Or we'd sit out back behind a shared townhouse. One of the bartenders, who were always named Mike or Kyle. We'd try out cocktails we created from whatever booze was available that was mostly stolen. We'd trade drugs from the club that we mostly swept off the floor. And we'd feast on food we'd feast on food pilfered from the kitchens by servers and cooks. And we'd talk well into the night until the sun come up and the daylight chased us inside. We'd talk about everything and we'd talk about nothing. So I got some details wrong. But goddamn, if I wasn't living in a city, drinking on back patio, ingesting drugs, listening to friends talk. And I had friends. And slowly I started to learn how to be accepted into something like a family that I didn't have to fucking join.
Lauren Hough.